Here.
Mr. Underwood.
Here.
Thank you. I'm going to, as usual, begin our meeting with the reading of our mission statement. And the mission of Northmont City Schools is to provide students an exceptional education with diverse opportunities so they maximize their potential and are productive, responsible citizens. That being said, we're going to move on to our first item of business, which is a special recognition to two students who certainly are on their way to fulfilling our mission. And I'm going to ask Mr. Thomas to talk about them a little bit.
Thank you, Mrs. Bloom. Prior to the meeting, we had an opportunity to meet with two of our students and get some pictures taken out front. Mrs. Stormer, one of our teachers, had been working with Bennett, Stouter, and Alex Point this past year on a project that I did share with the board a while back that if you had a chance to run on curb bombs. And they submitted their video as well as their one-page paper. And we are proud to say that they were awarded first place in the nation in the Explore Vision contest.
Wow.
What that means is they receive a $10,000 savings bond that's used towards college, an iPad, certificate, and a banner. Unfortunately, they were also supposed to attend Washington, D.C. for a ceremony, and in lieu of that, we presented them to the board meeting tonight. So, expense paid trip to Inglewood. They are outstanding young men. If you haven't had a chance to view their video, they are sixth graders, and you would think you were watching a college presentation. They were even able to get access to a landing strip because their project was about the propulsion that's expelled from jets that they could capture that energy and put it into turbines. The idea was that they could power at least the airports that they and maybe even put some into the grid. This was totally their idea. I talked to the teacher tonight, and these young men, we will see them a few times, I think, over the next few years. I told them this is probably not the last time that I will be presenting a plaque to them. But congratulations to them and their families for this outstanding accomplishment. First in the nation speaks for itself. Congratulations.
Awesome.
Yeah.
They were, you have to know, they were so adorable. They were well spoken, and from what their parents said, that this was like a labor of love for them. They told me that the hardest part was writing the 11-page paper, that the science part of it was not as tough as the 11-page paper. But young men to be proud of and to watch as they move on through the secondary part of their education here at Northmont. So that's awesome. This evening, we do not have any visitors, communication, or recognitions to add, so we're going to move on to our treasurer's report. Mrs. Ferrara.
Thank you, Mrs. Bloom. I have 3 items for you tonight for your approval. The regular meeting minutes from May 11th, 2020. Also, the transfer of $2,500 from the general fund to the academic challenge fund. This is to help offset some of their expenses for travel that they do for all the competitions. And also, I have the May financial report for your approval. Just to let you know, total receipts for the month of May we're at $1,838,821. Total expenditures were $4,858,461. Receipts were a little low last month because we got our first, we'd say, cut from the state from the $874,000 that we're expected to get cut from the state. So that we saw that first reduced amount in May. Total for the year at $55,865,943, and total expenditures were at $52,875,606. So that is my report for you tonight, and that's all I have.
Thank you. This evening, we're asked to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 11th, 2020. We're asked to approve a transfer of $2,500 from the general fund to the academic challenge fund. And finally, we're asked to approve the financial report for May. Does anyone have any questions? Do we need to separate anything? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Ferrara, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Woody,
Yes.
Mr. Poulos,
Yes.
Dr. Esplita,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Underwood.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the personnel agenda. Does anyone Part A, does anyone require any separation? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Ferrara, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Poulos,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Dr. Esplita,
Yes.
Mrs. Woody.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to section B. Does anyone require separation? Do I have a motion to approve?
Linda, real quick, I cannot see section B for whatever reason on my phone. I'm assuming there are some coaches on section B.
There's section B.
There are no items on
There are
section.
no items on section
Okay,
B.
that's why I couldn't see it.
Sorry.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
I was wondering if am I seeing something I'm supposed to be seeing? Okay, got it.
We just were testing you. It
Okay,
was
thank you.
a test. And you passed. Yay.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. We're asked this evening to approve the list of 2020 Northmont High School graduates. We're asked to approve policy 2370.01, the blended learning as an emergency policy. We're asked to accept the Wellness Committee report for 2019-20 school year. We're asked to approve the adoption of the Statistics and Probability with Applications textbook, Bedford, Friedman, and Worth publisher for the new Applied Statistics course at the high school in the amount of $11,913.60 coming from the Permanent Improvement Fund. We're also asked to approve Bilbrey Construction as a vendor for the CLEPS Early Learning Center's parking lot expansion project in the amount of $354,236 as per purchasing policy 6320. We're asked to approve the revisions to the compensation policies and finally to review the athletic code of conduct for the 2020-2021 school year that we received today. So if you haven't checked your email, you may not have received it. You may not have seen it yet, but we're asked to review it. Does anyone require any separation? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mrs. Ferrara, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Dr. Esplita,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Mr. Poulos,
Yes.
Mrs. Woody,
Yes.
Mr. Underwood.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to board reports. Does any board members have anything to report this evening?
Just
I
on
do that.
CTC.
Oh.
Yep. CTC real quick. We are right on schedule, if not ahead of schedule, because of the as far as the building. And
Awesome.
yeah, so everything's moving right along.
Wow.
Great. Isaiah, do you have something to report?
Yeah, I have one thing. So there's not a whole lot going on in the school, but there's definitely a whole lot going on in the world right now. And I think I'd like to recognize two students who are really taking the mission statement of the Northmont City Schools and really exemplifying that and being productive, responsible students. So in response to the murder of George Floyd, we have two students, Bryce Alsher and Peyton Runyon, who are organizing a peaceful march from Centennial Park to the Clayton Police Department to address the racial inequalities in America, as well as honor the memory of Karina Broski. And that's going to be this Friday at 4:30. So I think that's just something awesome that some students are doing that I think we should recognize.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Anyone else have anything to report? I do have something to report this evening. I, as you well know, am a part of the steering committee for equity and adequacy in school funding, and along with many other people across the state, we are quite distraught over the Ed Choice voucher bills that are moving through the state and the dollars that are involved here. So recently, a school in northeastern Ohio, the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District, started investigating and talking to attorneys, and they are, I'm not sure whether they've already filed the lawsuit or going to file a lawsuit against the state of Ohio, similar to the DeRolf lawsuit from years and years ago, to stop the voucher expansion. The Cleveland Heights University Heights made the kind of like the last straw was when 91% of the vouchers that they are going to lose as part of their state dollars are going to students who never ever attended the public school system at all. And as you remember from being part of the discussion at last OSBA, the conference, this has been a real thorn in our side, if you will, and amounts to a tremendous amount of dollars that are going to work. All the public schools, traditional public schools, tend to lose to students who are have never even attended our public schools. So you'll notice that when it comes on our consent agenda, the amount of dollars that we're going to be asked to approve to the Ohio Equity and Adequacy of School Funding Council is going to be an increase over last year because we're going to help. They're asking districts across the state to help in this regard, help fund this lawsuit, and eventually it's like an investment because eventually it's going to save us a lot of money. So I wanted to share all that with you, and more information to follow. I don't know, Tony, if you know any more or want to add to it at this time.
I'll just add, Mrs. Bloom, that we did receive more information on that Friday late, and so we will prepare a resolution for our next board meeting and have a chance for you guys to look that over a little ahead of time, and hopefully, in my recommendation, pass that and continue to fight for what's best in public education. And thank you, Mrs. Bloom, for serving on that executive committee and always thinking of public education first.
Thank you. Any other board reports this evening? Mr. Thomas.
All right. I would like to talk about what I think if we have an audience out there tonight, and understand is we are getting quite an audience for these on Facebook Live. The one thing that they probably are most interested in is the reopening of school. And so with that, I just want to share that we are devising various scenarios, and we are working with the public health director here in Montgomery, and in this community it's called Public Health Montgomery and Dayton, and his name is Jeff Cooper, and we think we made some breakthroughs. We have scenarios. Every scenario includes remote learning as an option. We just know that that will relieve a lot of our parents and possibly guardians, grandparents raising children if they know they have that option. But we are looking at what it would mean under current guidelines to come back, and just so you understand, it wouldn't be coming say March 1st. Current guidelines are 6 foot distancing, face mask, and a lot of things like that. Now we are working to see if we can get some of those things reconsidered or at least reduced. Because if we have to come back at 6 foot distancing, it would be so limiting that it would not look anything like what we have now. We would have some scenarios where we could only have space for 12 students in a classroom. That doesn't work. 26 to 30 kids on a bus. But good news is we're working, and all the superintendents in the county are working together with Mr. Cooper, and we are hopeful that we can come up with something. The other scenario would be some sort of partial week or days, things like that. So we're working on those scenarios. And then the third scenario would be total remote learning. But our hope is, and what I think resonated with Mr. Cooper was that we believe that the best place and the safest place for most of our students is to come back to school. We're trying to figure out a way to do that. And I think he agreed with that as well. As we learn more, we'll continue to share it. We do have, I want to be upfront and transparent, we do have a parent survey ready to go, but we would like to wait to see if the health department is going to reduce some of those restrictions before we release that, because that might really influence the way parents would complete that survey. So it's not that we're trying to hide anything. We just think that the timing should be right. And if they're thinking about changing some of those restrictions, it would be better information for us if we did it after public health changed. If we don't hear changes within the next week or so, we'll probably go ahead and send it out as is. I want to thank Mrs. Dillon for the high school summer school report. It was a refreshing report. I know that when we thought about having remote learning, summer school is the only option. We weren't sure how that was going to go, but we had a really good turnout. Actually, the numbers, I think, over the last years, I think they're a reflection of a number of things. And so thank them for putting together a quality summer school. I'd like to thank Mrs. Sipes and Pam for the wellness report. I hope you had a chance to look that over. That's the annual report that they normally give face to face, which is more difficult. I'd also like to thank Mr. Kinnett and Mr. Watson for the work they did on the Learning Center parking lot contract. Again, there's no general fund money was used for that, and that was a huge need there. When we have events there, we just do not have enough parking. And then, as important, if not more important, it will be safer for the drop off of the preschool. And so, and then the fact that it came in way under budget is definitely timing is always important in construction. I think timing is very important. I'd like to point out that we have a graduate and a former teacher at Northmont by the name of Garrett Carter. And now we can refer to him as Dr. Carter. He recently defended his dissertation at Indiana University. And a lot of the work he's doing is with cultural sensitivity. Actually, his doctorate is entitled Exploring Culturally Responsive School Leadership. And he also looked at what we are doing here at Northmont. And I've read about half of it. I just got it the other Friday afternoon, about a 200-page document, about halfway through it. And it does reinforce that what we're doing here at Northmont is the right way to do things. Culturally responsive school leadership that we've been participating in with the county.
I got kicked off again. Did you get kicked off? Why did it happen again? I can't even get on anymore.
Okay, we're gonna, I'm not aware of any new business, but in old business, at our last meeting, we spoke about the need to, do something with our levy that is expiring. And I'm gonna let you talk, if you will, a little bit about the process that we have to go through in order to put that on the ballot.
Sure, yes, ma'am. Tonight, I presented with you guys. I presented both of you, all of you, with two resolutions. The one resolution would have been for a renewal, and also one for a continuous levy. After your decision tonight, whichever way you guys would choose, I will now then present that to the Montgomery County, and actually Dark County and Miami County, because we do have some properties that actually lie in those counties. And then at that point in time, they will get a estimate from the county of how much money that levy will bring in. Currently, it brings in about $3.5 million to the district. And once we get that, we will then have another resolution that needs to be passed, and then I will actually then formally present that to the Board of Elections to put that on the November ballot.
Okay, any questions about the process from any of the board members?
Ann, what is your final cutoff date to have that turned in?
For both resolutions, have to be done by August 5th of this year.
Okay. All right.
We last we spoke at our last board meeting. We had a discussion about whether or not to make this a continuous levy or put it on the ballot for 5 years. There was, it sounded to me like there was total agreement in doing something with that issue and putting it on the ballot in November. I guess what I need now is some direction from the rest of the board as to how you want to proceed. Do we want to take a look at 5 year, or do we want to take a look at continuous?
Linda, if you don't mind, I'll speak first here. I just was, been thinking about this a lot, and then, my feeling still is to do continuous, to be able to get that off of our plate, or get it off of the, what do you call it, with the plate, I guess. And then, and I think when going that way, we will really have to be cognizant, even more so, to hopefully communicate to the community what this really means. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world right now. There's a lot going on in this community. And so, but I think continuous is the best way to go from here, in my opinion.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
I'll just weigh in just a little bit here. I guess my biggest, I don't know if it's concern or not, is that we make everybody aware of the fact that we are going on the ballot, and it is a non-increase in taxes, and we have to get that point across. Also, my concern is, since there's been a lot of mail-in votes versus that, we have to make sure that everybody is aware that we are on the ballot and that we do need their vote. And with all those, all being said, I'm with Jane in endorsing the continuous.
I think that the continuous is a way to. I don't think anybody in our community really thinks that we're never going to need the money. We've just taken over an $800,000 hit, and the fact that we're renewing is a good thing. There's a lot of unrest financially out there in the community and the country. So I think when the day comes down the road that we might need new money, we won't have to worry about these dollars if we go continuous and pass. That's my feeling. Chris, Jerry, you got something to add?
No, I'm a proponent of the continuous, just because of the fact from a treasurer standpoint, we know what we're dealing with, and we don't have to make assumptions that we're not going to receive those funds. So it's easier from the Treasurer's Department, as well as, like I said, I'm just a proponent of continuous.
Okay,
Good.
okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion that we put on the ballot, have our treasurer, I'm not sure of the verbiage here, that our treasurer advise the county of our being on the ballot for a continuous period of time.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Anne, is that the verbiage you need?
Yeah, I can put down the resolution, the proper resolution for a continuous levy on this for renewal of the 5.9 mil levy.
Correct. Refresh our memory, it was passed originally in,
I believe this one was 2006. This actually was a 2016 one.
okay. Any further discussion? Mrs. Ferraro, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Woody,
Yes.
Mr. Poulos,
Yes.
Dr. Espelita,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Mr. Underwood.
Yes.
Thank you. To the board members, I just really think that because of the financial landscape of our community and our country, I think we're all going to need to step up and really work hard to get this passed. I don't think that, I think it's a good thing that there's no new taxes involved with it, but I also don't think that we can rest on and relax. We really need to work hard like we always do, but we're going to need more people this time, and I know that I can count on all of you. That being said, there is no reason to go into executive session. I do want to remind you all that on June 29th at 5:15 p.m., we're going to have a special board meeting that will allow us the opportunity to look at the year-end financials and any miscellaneous items that come up between now and then. So please make sure that's on your calendars. Also, before we leave, because I do believe we are leaders in the community, and our community is one that comes together when people are hurting. There are many of us who are hurting, beginning with, but not limited to, our African American community members. We need to have the courage to look into our hearts and bring about a change to unconscious and conscious bias. Bring ourselves to listen intently to those who look the same as us, as well as those who do not. Now we're going to say we're either going to be virtual, but hopefully we're going to be at the high school where there is enough space for us to spread out, social distance, and allow the public to social distance as well.
Did
Linda,
you-
if I could, I don't know if this is possible, wherever we would be at the high school, to put the tables, so we're looking at each other versus, in a line, so that way we can hear each other better, if that's possible, Tony, I don't know.
Good idea, in a U shape kind of, an open
Something like
U?
that, yes.
Yeah, okay. Great. Anything else?
The 29th is definitely a virtual meeting, though, correct?
Buildings are still closed, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all for coming. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I can't.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Bye.